Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I've been feeling this conversation for some time now, and it's going to be interesting. How are you doing? Before we get into it,
Appreciate you asking. I spent all day on my land yesterday. We had an ice storm that it was ice and then more rain and ice and more rain. And so trees came down like crazy. And so I spent all day yesterday just hauling brush and clearing, and it was getting beat to shit by branches, bloodied. And it was like,
an adventure.
it was therapeutic on many
Yeah.
levels.
Where do you live? Because that sounds like a lot of snow and ice.
Austin, Texas.
No,
Yeah, dude, I'll show you this. This is crazy.
dude, a
So this
Norwegian would go like, no, that's supposed to be warm.
exactly. This was literally like 2 weeks ago. Look at this. Where is it?
Oh, dude, that's freaky. Are those are
Those are
burdened by the freaking ice on the trees?
fully living trees that just got brought down. This is off my back balcony.
What? Yeah, because I stumbled when you said ice storm. I was like, isn't that supposed to be a snowstorm? There was not a lot of snow in that picture or video.
And this is yesterday was just, I mean, these branches were everywhere.
Oh wow.
So, but it was, man, it was great. This was yeah, I mean, all these things just came down. So spending the day just stacking the usable ones and then hauling off the ones. And there's still a lot on the ground, but that's just ground cover now. It'll mulch pretty nicely.
Wow.
So yeah, it was man, it was epic. Just
It
therapeutic.
sounds epic. Jesse Elder, fantastic adventure of life. Like I saw you on a post and I figured this is someone I have to talk to because what you're talking about, the epic adventure of clearing branches that are crushed by the freaking ice in Austin, Texas. Those are stories, man. And from what little I've been consciously trying to not learn too much about you because
Mm.
there are so many things that I just want to, out of my own genuine curiosity, want to kind of dive into. So, as I say, adventure life, would you kind of agree that that is kind of the perspective of how you live it? Like everything can be the things that normally people would say is hard or negatively loaded or whatever, a challenge that they don't want to face. How do you see those?
In my best moments, I would say that's accurate. I also recognize that those adventures have a very short lifespan, and something that I am aware of in myself. If I'm teaching or coaching and I'm using a story as an example, and it's an epic story, and there's danger and there's triumph and there's all of this stuff, I'm aware of when did that story happen? Because if that story happened too far in the past, that's for me, that's a warning signal. Because I think, I think the tendency, especially these days, is to, number one, is live vicariously through other people's adventures. So everybody knows what's going on in a TV show and the Grammys and all this kind of stuff. So there's not a direct personal experience of life. But even those of us that have had, and I think everybody has some, hero's journey in their life. If they happened too long ago, then I think we run a real risk of dying, even though our body keeps going for another couple of decades, but we functionally are dead because we're just going off the momentum of old fuel. So I'm adventure of life. I have been that. I realize that I can't take that for granted, because if I don't exercise courage today, if I don't do something that is outside of what's comfortable today, then I begin to become irrelevant. And especially with AI and everything is just getting faster and faster and faster and faster. So I think we're going to see a lot of people. It's already happening, but I think we're going to see a lot of people over the next couple of years that are going to move increasingly into the metaverse. They're going to be increasingly entertained. They're going to be, hooked up to some sort of sensors, and as long as they're have enough adrenaline from playing the games, then they get fed to them. There's all sorts of shit that's coming. So I don't think that's bad. I think it's just part of natural evolution. But my future is aggressively analog.
Dude, I love that because I don't know. Have you read Ready Player Two?
I only got about 3 chapters in.
Yeah,
Ready Player One, I was all into. He actually lives in Austin. Klein lives here. He drives around a fucking DeLorean, like from back
dude,
to
I
the
read about
future.
that. That's an
Yeah.
amazing human. But you see, the whole narrative of Ready Player Two, I got scared reading that. It was like, oh shit! Like Ready Player One already goes into the scenario, but Player Two, with AI, as you say, coming and just unleashing itself on us like this, dude, we have to be so much more conscious about what
Yes.
we're doing and just seek out those analog, love that by the way, adventures
Yes.
to live, to be human.
Right. Right. This may be relevant. A friend of mine shared this on Facebook, and I rarely share things on Facebook. I like
Yeah.
writing stuff, but he, first of all, he posts this great picture of his car. So
I
it's like
saw that.
old school, right? And then he says, "They were men, son. They flew in the craft that hugged the ground. They burned engines fueled with spark and fire, pure noise, petrol refined from the ground. They wore guns, the kind that fired hot, shearing brass bullets into their foes. They smoked, rolled tobacco, and wiped their ass with paper. They took grain from the fields and turned it into fuel that you could light with a match on fire, and they drank it. They split the trees with axes and burned the wood in fires to heat their homes. They made love to the women in front of those fires, and they created children with each other like savages. They hunted animals, ate the meat. They did it all without permits or permission, and it was not only legal, it was their way of life." That's terrifying. Grandpa, are there men like this left anywhere? Just in books, just in lore. 21, 23, somewhere in the woods.
I felt it. Like
Right,
I
dude.
wanted to, I wanted to read it. I wanted to give that a thank you, by the way, because that was most, couldn't get better. The way you, if you know, you know,
Yeah.
you know, uh, that ties me directly into a whole bunch of things like education and how these things are forgotten and the rite of passage and
Mhm.
everything. It's,
Mhm.
it becomes overwhelming when you start thinking of it from that perspective. When you see what's going on, I would say that it's almost like seeing the future, and you need to just be freaking human and show people that, you know, we used to be able to do things without AI, without
Right,
doing these Google searches on how to boil eggs. But all
right,
the
right. Well, and this is, I think, part of the game and part of the challenge is if you think about people who get into philosophical debates. I think debates can be useful, and personally, I will only enter into a debate if I think the other side is worthy of respect. If it's not, if it doesn't earn my respect, then it's not worth my time to try and get into a debate. So most of the time, I'll just say, "You're right,"
yeah.
and that's it. Because if a belief is worth holding on to, then it can support pressure, it can support scrutiny, it can support question, it can support debate, it can support attack, it can withstand all of those and maybe even get stronger. And so all of that to say, if speaking subjectively, if my worldview were to be so fragile that it's threatened because everybody else doesn't think the way that I think, well, that's not a worldview that I want to hold on to. And so while I may observe things happening in the world that are not my values, that are someone else's choice to do something totally different with their life, including feeling the need to tell me how I should live my life, I support their right to say that. And so I personally, and I've done this before, but I don't find it useful to wish that things were different. I don't wish that we were back in the 80s. I don't like none of that. It's like we're here. And when I see, the Grammys, like a meme pop up, and I'm like, what the fuck is that dude wearing? Or, all of this, it's like that doesn't threaten me because I know who I am. And it just makes me even more excited to get out on the farm and get out on the land and serve my clients and be a good lover and be good in music and all these things that are uniquely human and that help make me who I am and who I want to be. All that other shit can continue to go. And I think we're just seeing the beginning of the insanity. I think we're just at the very preview of how fucked up and wild things are going to be, which is great. Like we didn't come here for a halfway life. We came here for a full fucking life. And that includes having enough information that differs from our beliefs so that our beliefs can get stronger.
I love that. I love that. It's just being your authentic self and not caring about the external validation all the time.
Right.
You know, what you said about Grammys. Yeah, there are no words to explain where the word is going, but it's very fun to observe it.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And this is one thing that I have I have found useful is to appreciate the appreciation of others. And meaning, if somebody sees the Grammys and they're like, "Oh my God, Sam Smith was just so glorious," you know what? I don't give a fuck. Like, if you're happy, great. And if the day ever comes where, the grid goes down for 30 days and all these people, all of a sudden, they're like, don't have food and they're eating each other. Well, you chose to live a life that made that the inevitable conclusion, and you just accelerated your graduation. Like, you're going to go off to Valhalla or heaven or whatever you think is next. Great. You just got there quicker. Like, maybe you're a more advanced player. You finished the game sooner than I did. I don't know.
Dude. Yes.
Oh, whatever. Like, you can't lose.
You can't. But you came to those thoughts and these values from somewhere. How? I know that you've been in the game for quite some time. But was there a huge event? Was there a collection of many smaller? What was that like? What happened?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I appreciate it. A couple of things. I was very, very fortunate to be born to parents who, for whatever reason, when I was born, they both agreed to stay out of my way. And they tell a story, which is very, very cool to hear now, that when I was 2, 3 years old, we were on the beach somewhere, and we had this blanket out, and it's my mom, my dad. I was the only one so far. I ended up having 3 more brothers and a sister, but 3 years old, I'm the only one. And I got up, as the story goes, and I walked towards the water, and I kind of looked back, and they made a choice that they weren't going to interfere. They weren't going to try and stop me. They weren't going to try and, err on the side of safety and try and control my experience. They looked at each other and they said, "We're going to let him go." And so I walked down to the water, and then I walked down the beach. Every so often I would look back, and they would just be there kind of like, waving, but not beckoning for me to come back, not warning me. They didn't project their own fears onto my experience. And to hear them tell it today, I walked way down the beach, like almost out of sight.
Yeah.
And with no resistance, with no interference from them. And then, of course, eventually I came back, and that ended up, that experience set the tone for the rest of my childhood. And so there wasn't a lot of restrictions. There was never a lot of given privileges. So if I wanted to stay up late and, 9 years old, 10 years old, I wanted to watch Saturday Night Live, but my bedtime is at 10 o'clock and Saturday Night Live comes on at 10:30. I'm like, "Mom, please, can I stay up late?" The answer is always the same. If you want that freedom, what responsibility are you going to take on? And so it's a very collaborative, co-creative experience. And so I would say, "Well, I'll babysit my younger brother." She's like, "Well, that's already your job." Like, "I'll do the dishes." She said, "That's also already your job."
Yeah.
"I'll do the diaper. I'll do the laundry." "That's your job too." "Fuck, I'll mow the lawn." Oh, I can't believe I just said that. She's like, "Done. You can mow the lawn." I'm like, So I mow the lawn. I got to stay up late. And that just kept escalating all the way through my life. And that was one thing that really, through experience, showed me that freedom comes from responsibility. Anytime somebody is lacking freedom, there is a responsibility that they failed to take control of. And anytime somebody wants more freedom, there's a responsibility that they must take. So that was a big part of it. And along the way, I got involved in martial arts. I loved it. I was homeschooled, so I, didn't have athletics and all those things. So martial arts really became a big deal. And I did for 10 years, from 9 until 19 years old, training, competing in taekwondo tournaments, doing, winning these trophies. And, when you're a teenage boy and you hear somebody say dozens of times, "Hey man, good fight. Hey man, good fight, good fight." Well, your teenage mind, you hear good fight, you think you're a good fighter. So I just always assumed that I could fight. Then one day I'm at this house party with this girl that I liked, and which in itself was a big deal because I was very shy, very socially insecure and awkward. So like talking to a girl was a big deal, let alone going out with her. Like, this is huge. So I'm like, loving it. Plus she was cute. So I'm like, wow. So we're at this house party and there's all these people that I don't know, but she's with me and it's awesome. And I see that there's a guy across the room and he's like staring at me. And I asked her, I'm like, "What's this guy's deal?" And she goes, "Well, it's my boyfriend." I'm crushed, first of all, because I really like this girl.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm like, you lied to me. Thirdly, I'm like, now I feel kind of weird, but now I like feel protective, but do I even have the right to feel protected? There's all this conflict. And now I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like I felt so defeated. I was embarrassed. I was angry. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to leave. So I'm leaving this house party. I'm walking down the driveway and this dude tackles me, jumps on my back, puts me on the ground. My face is on the driveway like this. And dude, I kid you not. The first thought in my mind is that he's going to get disqualified. That's how far from reality I was, because I had done all these taekwondo tournaments and there's a referee and you got safety equipment, all this stuff. Yeah. So I'm on the ground. First time I've ever been in a real life altercation, and I think he's going to get disqualified. Well, then as his punches are hitting me and my head's on the concrete, I realize there's no ref. Like, nobody's coming to save me. And I just didn't know what to do. I was like, martial arts actually got in my way because I was trying to figure out how I can do the moves. And meanwhile, my natural instincts to actually fight were suppressed. Luckily, people pulled us apart. We end up standing kind of facing each other, and he's like yelling at me. I'm doing this little moral countdown. I'm like, okay, he started it, right? Okay. And I was 3, 2, 1. And I round kicked him in the head. He dropped. I jumped over him and I ran. But dude, I was terrified because all this shit that I'd learned was worthless. And so that destroyed my faith in theory. And I wasn't angry at my instructors. I felt like I'd failed my style. I was 19 and second-degree black belt, and I failed taekwondo. Taekwondo didn't fail me. And it's like when somebody, is devoutly religious and everything is by the book, but whatever the pastor, the preacher, the saint, whatever they say, I'll follow it. And then life kicks them in the balls or the ovaries, and things don't work. And they're like, "Oh, but I'm not following it right." Yeah, but sometimes that happens. And maybe that's exactly what you needed to happen. So like, you didn't fail the religion. I didn't fail taekwondo. Taekwondo failed me. It didn't work. And that baptism in reality got me so focused on, okay, I need to figure this shit out. Luckily, this is right around the time the first UFC came out. One of my instructors, one of my coaches was training with the Gracies. And he tells me, he's like, "Come to Austin. I'm going to show you some stuff." So I remember the first time I lay down on the mat. I'm like, "This is gay. What's going on?" He's like, "Just watch." So he starts showing me the moves. I start training. Next thing you know, fast forward, I'm fighting in these underground bar fights that were like, they roll this wrestling mat on the dance floor, no rules, no time limit, no weight limit, no safety equipment. And I realized I either have to do this or I have to stop teaching, because I can't have any integrity if I say, well, this is how you defend yourself, if I've never actually been in a fight except for that stupid street fight. So I entered, I fought, I did pretty well. I won 9 fights, I lost 2. And that drove a philosophy home for me, because I stopped asking what's true, and I started asking what's useful. And it's something that I've done the best that I can to apply in everything in my life, whether it's true or useful. And so cutting through, the bullshit and cutting through the fluff, especially in the world of coaching where, people are like, oh, I help clients, blah, blah, blah. Matter of fact, just today, right before our call, I have a group called the LXG. It's the Legion of Extraordinary Game Changers. It's as stupid a name as the coaching industry often is,
Yeah.
but it's really, really good people. But I laid down the law today in the group, and I said, if I'm not useful to you, then I don't deserve your money. And so this wisdom economy is only good if we can actually help people. And so if what you do and if what I do works for one person, but it doesn't work for someone else, then it's not the system that's at fault. It's not a can't do, it's a won't do.
Yeah.
And so I gave the assignment to all of our members today. I said, you got 2 weeks to submit a testimonial from a client with a measurable, tangible result that you've helped them to achieve, or a measurable, tangible result that you've achieved by being here. And guess what? Feelings don't count. I love my clients.
Yeah. Yes.
My clients are so much happier. What the fuck does that mean? My clients tripled their revenue. My clients ended a toxic relationship. They quit their shitty job and started a side hustle. Those are events. That's the result. So I told our group today, I said, you've got from now until February 28th to submit your testimonials. If you don't, then this is not the place for you. So from March 1st forward, we will only have people in this group who are committed to getting radical results for their clients and for themselves. So, that's just a recent example of what's true versus useful. People are like, oh, it's true that I help people. How do you know? How do you know? I ask myself that all the time. And I'm so insecure about, like, for me, the worst thing that could happen is if somebody says, I paid Jesse, I worked with him, didn't get a result. Like that shit keeps me up at night.
Yeah. And that,
Anyway,
yeah.
that's the
Dude, I love it. Thank you so much for that. Well, by the way, just a little thing that irked me. Did he run up and tackle you from behind?
from behind.
Okay.
Came straight up my six, jumped on me, and I'm on the ground.
Oh my God, that just says so much. Thank you for that. Like, we have very similar philosophies. And due to that, I also feel so freaking insecure because we are living in this world where you are the expert as long as your Facebook cover image says so. I will help you achieve $10 million in 90 days, says the 17-year-old who just took a Tai Lopez course. I mean, totally. Right? So it's Aldous Huxley. It's the whole Orwellian versus Huxley theory. Like, people will be so overwhelmed with information that they will think that the information is what they need instead of actually doing the fucking thing and getting the results. Explore. Don't take people's opinions and thoughts for granted. Yes. So, because this is going to be leading into a very interesting topic. I held a retreat in the mountains of Norway. And I run this community of Psychonauts. I found plant medicine, Liberty Cap, here in Norway, and that changed my life completely. And after that, there has been this journey of trying to figure out, who am I? What is the medicine capable of? And what is the actual truth, the useful truth, compared to what we're being told? So it has led me into a whole bunch of things where I've done things that they said were not correct. It wouldn't be possible, basically. They said that this is going to kill you, this is going to do a whole bunch of things. So we went up there just to see, is that really true? Will it? So we did a massive dose, and I got my thoughts confirmed. Like, I found myself, and I found more clarity, because I was also insecure as a motherfucker. Like, I doubted everything that I did, because who am I to say what works for people if I don't know what's on the other side of that question, or the fear, right? So I know that fear is also just one topic that could span the entire episode here, because I think we both have a very similar view on fear. But have you said that you're a psychedelic creator, kinda. something along those lines on your Instagram. What
Yeah.
is your relationship to psychedelics and your consciousness and these things?
Yeah, it's an evolving one. When I shared that, I was actually a client of mine. He said, spending something like spending time with you is like doing drugs.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's like an altered state. Time behaves weirdly. Like I see things more clearly. And so I just thought it was funny. I put it on there that, about myself reportedly acts as a human psychedelic. And so, which is a total ripoff of Salvador Dali, who said, I don't do drugs, I am drugs, which is very good. So that was the genesis of that bio. In terms of psychedelics, entheogens, psychotropics, I came to the game very late in life. I was 38 years old before I did anything. I was growing up as a fighter. I didn't drink for 10 years. I was just like, living a very different life. And it was wonderful. And then when I was 38, I did mushrooms for the first time. And it was a fucking launch and a half. It was, I took them. I was with my best friend. We were at his place, really nice house. And, you feel the blooming in your stomach. And you're like, wow, I just feel happy. And I just lay down on the couch and I could see that all along the beams and the corners of the walls were just like lines of energy. It was just like shooting energy. And I was like, wow. And then I closed my eyes. And the second I closed my eyes, it was the exact same feeling as waking up after you get knocked out. I've been knocked out twice in a full contact match. And there's that moment of coming back when you come back awake and your coach and others, they're like, okay, he's there. Okay, come in, like that. Closing my eyes on mushrooms was the exact same experience. The moment I closed my eyes, it was a bunch of beings and they were like, okay, there he is. Okay, come on. We've been waiting for you. Let's go. And it was a full send, man. It was instructive. It was beautiful. It was emotional. And that was my first psychedelic experience. It was wonderful, very intense, but intensely beautiful.
Transformative.
Yeah. Well, and on that point, I was just going to say, when you were talking about your experience and your retreat, every psychedelic experience that I've had, which at this point is well over 100, many different tools, many different experiences. In looking back, I want to choose my words carefully here. There wasn't anything that was a profound transformation or revelation. It was confirmation. There was things that I had always known deep down inside. I'd always believed. I'd always thought this way, a lot of which made it through to my work or to music or to writing fiction or poetry or conversations. But when I had those experiences, it was just a confirmation. Yeah. I had this DMT trip that was beautiful. And there's the beings, they're real. And I always get questions afterwards. Like I always get to ask questions like Q&A once they show me the trip. And then they're like, okay, what do you want to know? And I would ask them, I said, how do you guys make all this stuff? Because this is very like intricate. And there's this one very strong masculine being, and he just kind of laughs and he says, well, we have a different relationship with matter than you do. Like you guys, humans, you make things that make things. Like you make a tool that makes a tool. You make a factory, it makes a car. You make things to make things. He said, we have a different relationship with matter. We just tell the matter what we want it to become, and it becomes that. And I was like, oh, of course you do.
Yeah.
And the trip's kind of fading off. And I was like, but who are you? And he kind of laughs and he says, well, we are you in what you would call the future. But time behaves differently for us. So for us, it's not past and present. We don't have that. We move around time the way you guys move around a room. So it's all happening right now for us. But for you, this is what you're going to become. Yes. Meaning humans.
Yes.
So that was awesome, dude. I came out of that. I was like, fuck, I knew it. There was never anything that was such a departure from my current beliefs that like I couldn't put myself back together again, which I'm very appreciative of. Maybe I just haven't done enough. I'm open to that possibility.
But that's also a very interesting question. Like, how much did you do? In terms of mushrooms specifically, how much is the biggest dose?
Biggest dose was 7.5.
Cubensis? Like just the Cuba Mexican
Um, that one was penis envy.
penis envy. So it's yeah, because that's is so freaking interesting. You know, you have these different potencies and teachers in the different strains of mushroom, and I was like blown away in the beginning.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
love
the
Liberty.
variety is incredible.
They are right, and what they have to teach you, it's so mind-boggling. There's
Yeah.
really no explanation for it. But here, I exclusively focus on Liberty caps. They are the third most potent ones in the world, right?
Mm.
And during the retreat, we did 10 grams, which is a fuck ton. Many people today, I shared a article that goes through the experience, and people were like, "Yeah, that was 10 shared, right?" No, 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 no.
Oh,
10 each, right? And then it was like, no way. Yeah, but it only leads to me doing 50 alone.
yep.
And then he was like, but why? It's just because of what you said now.
Yeah.
For me, it became the ultimate personal development tool. I had to really confirm and go through a lot of processes that mushroom showed me. You have had a beautiful journey through your life where you have been subjected to the experiences that has taught you what's useful. So you have found your values and beliefs along your ride, right? When I see this, one thing that I saw during the last few trips is that I've learned enough to find myself, to be grounded when I do these things. So now it's more of what can I learn that is not about healing myself? What can I learn about information that is external or multidimensional, if you will?
Right.
And that is just what you said now. Like you understand that, you know, for me, I understood that I'm not nothing but a composition of quantum particles vibrating in a vacuum on a Planck scale. And I was energy, and energy is completely detached from time, place, can't be destroyed, is everywhere, has always been there. It's like you're the wave, but you're also the ocean, right? All these things that just become so clear. And dude, I love that. Just again, talking to you, it confirms a whole bunch of what I've spent this journey learning for myself.
Mm.
Thank you so much for that. Do you
Yes, sir.
have There's one thing though, like in these ceremonies, I've seen that the way you use them, the setting you're in, depending if you are being in a basement or if you are in the jungle or if you're wherever, right? It has a massive part to play in how the entire experience
Huge.
transpires. Yeah. What is your preferred location or setting?
Um, it's a good question. I think that there are elements that I found useful rather than specific
Mhm.
environments. I've had beautiful experiences out in nature, and I've had like the worst terror I've ever felt in my life was on a mushroom trip with a girlfriend at the time, and we were out in this park, and it was like being in hell. So even that was useful. There's no such thing as a bad trip. It's all in how you reframe it and what you get out of it that makes it bad. Just like life, man. It's like
Yeah.
a traumatic event is just an event where the pain is still greater than the benefit. And you can always go back and get more benefit from any experience to the point that you're grateful that it happened. So same thing with the trip. So nature could be, might not be. I've had some beautiful experiences in a hotel room with the blinds closed, with the right music, and another person that you're on the same page, and whether it's 2CB or ketamine, like those, it's the least fancy environment possible,
Yeah.
and the most beautiful experience. So I think the element for, I mean, people for sure, the vibe and the energy and the mood that you're in. I've always had a rule that I never use a substance to feel better.
Yes.
I will only use a substance if I'm feeling better.
Oh, that's a great tip. Like
Yeah.
if write that down. Because that's the problem with many people is that they see the tool as the solution in itself. So they will just as long as I do more of this, the magic pill will sort my issues.
Right.
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 It comes from
That's the thing.
within.
It is a
Yeah.
tool. And
Yeah.
I also will say that if I had never done anything, I don't know that my life would be remarkably different than it is right now. So doing more or doing less is not something that I look at as, needed and requirement for my life. I think it is exactly that. It is a tool, and it's what we intend it for. It's what we, what is our request or our question or our curiosity going into it. And it's the responsibility of the student to learn. It's not the responsibility of the teacher. The student must take responsibility for learning. That being said, the teacher has a responsibility to convey words and experiences so that the student can arrive at these ideas. And so it goes back to confirmation versus revelation. That being said, I am a big fan.
Yeah, it also the hero's journey, pain to power, mess to message. It goes along so many things.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling. So that I don't want to keep you for too long because I don't know how busy you are.
Good. We're good.
Good. All right, because it kind of leads me into, fear, living authentically, living in flow, doing the things that feels right for you instead of doing the things that you must do and that is told. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's most people, overwhelmingly, most people have an experience early in life, 4 or 5 years old, when they are separated from their parents and they go into a room that there's a bunch of other kids, which is great. And then there's a grown-up who they don't know, who they learn very quickly that grown-up is in charge of everything in their life for those 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever it is. You have to go to the bathroom, ask that grown-up. You have to, you don't like the person next to you, talk to that person. Person next to you does something you don't like and you handle it, deal with that person. So this is an experience that almost everybody has from 5 to 18 years old.
Damn.
Someone else controls your time, someone else controls your attention, someone else controls your body. So by the time you're 18 years old, you don't know what it's like to think for yourself. Most people don't know what it's like to do what they want to do because A, they don't know what they want. B, they don't know who they are. Then it's like Ayn Rand said, in order to say, I love you, one must first be able to say, I. And so if you say, what do you want to do today? Well, who are you, first of all? And most people just don't have that experience. And so a lot of my work has been helping people to undo and reverse the incredible psychological damage that happens in a school where they're taught that they are not their property, somebody else, you belong to somebody else. And so helping people to undo that. So relating to fear, most of the fear that people experience is a completely irrational fear, but our body doesn't know the difference. Our body can't tell the difference between fear that's keeping you alive and protecting you from, physical harm, or the fear of being rejected because you raised your prices on your program and somebody doesn't like that. Like most people can't tell the difference. So a hateful comment on Facebook feels like being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. For most people, they'll do anything to avoid it.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work has been to help people to separate rational fear from irrational fear and find the irrational fears, treat those as green lights, and it doesn't stop being scary, but you stop being afraid, if that makes any sense at all.
That makes all the sense. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's going back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this dialogue, that it's about seeking out the experiences, and sometimes not even seeking them out, but just finding yourself in these experiences and realizing, you know what, this has to be done. I have to do it. And maybe it's, proposing marriage, and maybe it's proposing a divorce. Yeah. Maybe it's raising your fees. Maybe it's going on a backpacking journey. Maybe it's telling somebody who's abusive to fuck off. Maybe it's to realize that you're being abusive and to go deep into shit. I really fucked that person over, and then have the courage to apologize. I mean, life has no shortage of opportunities. And I found that courage begets courage. That's not like a genius thing. It's self-obvious. So if anybody find themselves in a situation where they're afraid, but they feel a compulsion to do it, well, there's only one way you're going to find out.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, then you're practicing listening to your fear. If you do it, you're practicing listening to your courage. And a lot of people say, well, that's dangerous. I don't know. I think it's more dangerous to squander your life force being afraid. That's the real risk. And if it becomes too dangerous to the point that I don't have a body anymore because I misjudged, well, great life. Like, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time.
Yeah. Also beautifully put. Not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time.
Yeah. The irony is that by focusing on being happy and being healthy and being courageous, it's better for us. So we actually live longer, happier, healthier lives. And I remember when I was 20, 25 years old, 30 felt like ancient, So I'm like, I got to make millions of dollars by the time I'm 30, because 30, it's over.
Yeah.
I'll be 50 in November. And now it's like, well, shit, no, I'm just getting started, man.
Exactly.
I just got the hang of this place. I just got the hang of the rules. I'm now the next 50 is going to kick ass. And the 50 after that, I don't know, but we'll see.
Oh yeah. Dude, I have this theory, it's actually one of, when I want to teach people, I don't want to teach people. I say, rather than listening to what I say, look at what I do, right? And just see if you can get anything from it. And we kind of put this into action in the retreat. To get to the retreat, you have to walk a good distance. Good. This is Norwegian mountains in the winter. So we had to walk through a blizzard at night. And it was one of those very simple things. You have to do it or you die. Because if you don't do it, you won't see what's on the other side or anything else. And when we got to that, I think is a very good precursor to see that, well, it might be difficult, but you can do it. It is very possible, because you will get into the zone of what is truly correct. You will align with everything that you are and just do the things. And as you do them, it's going to be easier. You can have that conversation. You can call someone out for their bullshit. You can stand up for your values. You can take that difficult conversation. All of these things, just the domino effect.
Yes.
For what I've seen so far in your life as well, that domino effect started so early that it just became second nature by the time you found the medicine that normally puts people free. Like it sets them free, because now they have this tool. But you, I love your parents, man. Those are some amazing people. That
incredible.
Seeing you now, seeing you now, it's also confirming for me that we have our own journeys all the time, and just to encourage our children and the people coming after us to be themselves as they figure out life.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah. My daughter understands quantum physics because of this. Understands.
Amazing. How old is she?
5 years old.
Yeah,
so
that's incredible.
It's what you said about your body doesn't know. So if she's viewing her own visual creativity through the lens of Paw Patrol, like I'm saying, if you're hurt, just visualize Paw Patrol, like these dogs going inside of your blood veins and fixing these illnesses, right? And she's doing it. All of a sudden, she's doing things that I could not even imagine. Telling her mother to blow on it if it's going to get better. Like, no, like this? No, with your mind. 5 years old. But thank you for that.
And that's how it can be. And it's like, the people who claim to want to change the world so much because then it would make them feel better. It's like, well, why don't you just focus on feeling better? Why don't you just focus on being better? And then maybe it won't matter what the world is going to do, because you're being who and what you're supposed to be.
Yeah, it always starts from within. And just, talking to people like you who have actually gone through the adventure and who's on the adventure of life, figuring out what's it all about, right? And always trying to seek this new thing, seek the new limitations. I always wonder, what is the final limitation that we can remove? What is possible? Because every time you go through these barriers, it seems like, okay, reality is more than a thought. Everything has changed now. More is possible. Anything is possible. Where does it stop? Like, if you start to watch yourself through the lens of you being the universe, observing the universe through yourself, and this limitless mindset, even death. What is your thoughts on death? Like, what most people see that as a period of life, right? Something to fear in the future because it's going to take us away from everything that we know, the Lamborghini outside and all that stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't really believe in it. Like I don't
Love that.
I don't I don't think it's useful. Um it is a channel change for sure. You're you're going from one perspective to another. And I imagine if we could talk to a baby before they're born, like if you could have a conversation with this fetus and say, look, right now it's very warm, it's very comfortable, you have a perfect temperature, you have room service pumped through your belly button 24/7, you have the best deep house music in the world. Dun, 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 dun. Like you're basically, this is perfect. And you don't understand time, but there's this thing called months. And in around 6 months from now, you're going to leave this perfect place and it's going to be loud and cold and it's going to be very weird. And you're going to have this body that you have to figure out. And you're going to be there for like 60 to 120 years. But you'll figure it out. No baby in their right mind will go, sounds awesome. Sign me up. Like, they'll be like, no, that sounds terrible. I want to stay here. You're like, yeah, but there's people. What are people? There's like music and food. What's music? And there's sex and there's Lamborghinis and there's drugs and there's like all sorts of amazing things. And there's art and there's pets. What is it? I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand. That's okay. You will. And now here we are. And everybody's repeating the same silly thing about death. Like, no, I don't want to go. You have to chill the fuck out. Like, first of all, you have to, so you can fight it or you can accept it. Secondly, nobody actually knows what's on the other side. Everything is conjecture. So you might as well pick a story that feels good to you while you're here. I could be totally wrong. I could die and damn it, I was wrong. There is a hell and wow, I'm there. But so are all my friends. So here we go. But then there's also, it could be end of everything, like when I did Bufo and I came on the other side, it was like, wow, I experienced the void and what happened before the void and what there was before the Big Bang and a total absence of everything. Maybe it's that, but I don't know. So while I'm here, I'm going to choose the belief and choose the story that feels the most accurate to me, feels the most true to me. And that is that death is just a curtain. And it's, you step off the stage, you go back into the green room and you're talking to all the other players and the director's there. And you're just like looking at that last one. And at the same time, that character that's going backstage that just came off stage is another character being played by some cosmic Xbox playing alien who's like playing this human game. Died again. It's like, I don't think it ends. And I don't find it useful to think that it ends.
I could not agree more. Like it just because I consider myself cosmocentric, kind of. It's the best thing that I could have seen. You compare it to religion and all the different beliefs that people have. Cosmocentric basically is energy, and it's so much more fun to just see life as an adventure game. And then when you come to whatever end of the level or ascension or next chapter or whatever, then if I like to picture that I'm meeting this guy. Or this entity, and they will have this notebook or whatever, and it could go two ways. He could start to read through these pages and say that you were given an opportunity here, but you didn't take it, so I think we have to send you back because you still have a lot to go through. Or he could go like, okay, can you do a backflip, because I don't see anything that we can possibly kind of add to this. If you do that, like, bring it on. Let's live life as the adventure that is, and then whatever happens, happens. Because why waste time discussing the semantics of something that is not really guaranteed? We can't confirm with the sources on this. It's very hard.
Right. Where's the peer review data?
Exactly. But Bufo, that is what you said there was a very interesting description of something that I have not tried. And seeing the lessons that I've had from the mushroom. I've never tried ayahuasca because I think that for me right now, it makes sense to learn from the medicine that grows in the same environment that it's ingested, kind of. But I'm not doing ayahuasca here in Norway. I find that kind of blasphemic almost. Would rather go to Peru or the Amazonian jungle, and that goes for Bufo as well. But you said you saw before the Big Bang, and you saw more, right? That is very fascinating. Can you go into the differences that you've experienced with what you've done?
Yeah, that particular molecule is very, very different than anything else that I'd experienced. There's a whole great story leading up to it, which I'll save for another time. But I was with a dear friend of mine. He's a neuroscientist, incredibly sharp guy, and an avid psychonaut. So he produces the venom, and it's like a brown scale. It looks like fish scales. And we put it in the pipe, light it up, and I hit it, and I just lean back. And even before my head hit the pillow, everything's going fractal, and it's gone. There was no conscious experience of the actual journey and the trip itself. It was only coming out of the trip that I was able to realize the magnificent, the enormity of the void that I had just come from. So from the moment things went fractal and were gone until the moment that I began to reorient, it was a reverse awareness. I didn't have any awareness going in. All the awareness was coming out. And I became aware that there is consciousness and that I have consciousness. And then I became aware that there's this thing called reality. And then I became aware that I have a part in that reality. And then I could feel more than see that all of these, the biggest human ideas of right and wrong and good and bad, these are like little grains of sand on a table. Like these are so insignificant in the scheme of things. And so I'm coming out of that, and then I realize, oh, I have a body, and my body is way, way over there. And then I realize, oh, that's how people don't come back from this, because it's like so insignificant compared to all the isness, right? The all, everything that is. Like that little body is like, it's beautiful, but it's so small, so far away. And I was like, well, I do want to go back. How do I do that? How do I get back? And there's like, oh, that's right. I just take a breath. So I go, and then boom, I'm back, and I open my eyes, and my friend is there. He's looking at me and he says, welcome back. And after that, for weeks after that, again, it's confirmation, not revelation. But I really could feel and see the connection, that not the connection, that thoughts are the mental code that we're writing to form our reality. Reality is always just a reflection of what we think, what we feel, what we see, and what we speak. Those four forces of creation, whatever our visualization is, the words that we choose, the feelings that we have, and the thoughts that we're having, all of that is just source code that this subjective reality is blinking back into our existence. And so, seek and you shall find. If we are looking for problems, we find them. If we're looking for solutions to problems, then we find problems and we find solutions. If we're looking for magic, we're going to find magic. If we're looking for love, we're going to feel love. If we want money, well, you don't want money. You want what money will give you, which is always a feeling. So focus on the feeling, and then money becomes a game piece that just flows in your experience like oxygen.
Love that. I think that if the universe, the grander composition of the universe, were to communicate in any term to that isness, that being, it would make sense if it is through something that we have an emotional connection to. And because the feeling, frequencies, vibrations, if you can communicate and energy attracts more of the same, it just makes sense that you need to be the feeling, and more of that feeling will come into your life. But most people, like, they're detached from that.
Yeah.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much for that.
It's a good conversation.
It has been an amazing conversation. And because I think we have a bunch of things that we can dive into. I think we should leave the people with a cliffhanger because we have to do this again if you're up for that.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Also, Austin, Texas. I've never been there, but I hear it's
Beautiful.
nice. Now I know it's cold, and I want to travel the world on these adventures just to see.
It has to be done.
It has to be done.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
And the weather here right now, I'll show you. The weather here is beautiful.
I love your view.
Yeah, I mean, this is just trees and it's a little cloudy outside, but it is really pretty this time of year.
I notice a very distinct lack of mountains, like huge mountains.
There are no mountains here.
Wow. Have you been in Norway?
No.
Oh, well,
No.
that's going to happen then because there's something about the frequency. I would say just the frequency, the feeling of being in proximity to a huge freaking mountain, or just the because you don't have a lot of beaches or oceans as well, do you?
Texas has a coast technically, but it's very, very underwhelmed.
Yeah. At some point, Jesse, you're going to stand here with me on a beach covered or overshadowed by a huge mountain. We're going to talk about some amazing things.
I can see this happening.
Yes, me too. We know. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time, man. It was confirming.
I'm glad. Likewise, Tor. Appreciate this, man.
Thanks.
Looking forward to whatever the next chapter holds.
Oh, yes. By the way, because this is a podcast, so where can people learn more about you, and how can they get in contact with you?
The best way is on social. Instagram is Time Piercer, one word. Facebook, Jesse 𝐒𝐿𝐴, and then I have a site that is constantly in flux depending on what I'm interested in. Social is the best way right now.
I'll leave all the links beneath where you see this video or hear this audio or wherever. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, man. Enjoy your day, evening.
You too. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
You're doing okay. Ciao.
Ciao.